Hello and welcome back to the Menopause Plate, Eating Well After Cancer. This is the fourth installment in the series, and today we're going to be looking at brain health and cognitive function. My name is Katie Johnson and I'm a CORE registered dietitian, and Samantha Cushion, a CORE registered dietitian, is here with us as well today. Samantha will be taking us through the supplement aspect of the webinar, and I'll be taking you through the nutrition aspect of the webinar. So what we're going to be speaking about today is what are psychological symptoms of the menopause, why it might be happening to you, how to eat well to support your brain health and cognitive function, and again, as always, we'll be touching on supplements. So what are psychological symptoms? So whilst you might have symptoms such as hot flushes or changes to your bowel habits that are a physical sign of menopause, there are some symptoms that you cannot see. Psychological symptoms are symptoms relating to our brain function and our mood, and they can have an impact on your quality of life, your day-to-day relationships, and how you carry out your day-to-day activities. Often what we hear in clinic is that you might have found yourself in a room, but you've no idea what you went in for. You might find yourself feeling a little bit more irritable in situations that you normally wouldn't, and these can all be symptoms of menopause. So what are psychological symptoms? Well, they include low mood, anxiety, feeling tense or nervous, memory problems, attacks of anxiety or panic, difficulty concentrating, loss of interest in most things, feeling unhappy or depressed, irritability, mood swings, loss of confidence, and reduced self-esteem and brain fog. And they are very common. 67% report experiencing psychological symptoms. That's around 4 in every 20. So again, you are not alone. So why do psychological symptoms occur? Well, some hormonal changes that occur during menopause may contribute to changes in mood, difficulty recalling common words, and forgetfulness. If you have experienced a surgical menopause, research suggests that psychological symptoms may be more severe and occur more quickly, such as verbal memory, semantic memory, and processing speed. Estrogen plays an important role in how our brain functions and our memory. It stimulates the brain and supports the growth of new cells. At a cellular microscopic level, estrogen helps brain cells consume and burn glucose, which is the brain's fuel source. Estrogen receptors in the brain are located in areas that help control memory and executive functions. And they also play a role in the creation and breakdown of hormones such as dopamine and serotonin, otherwise known as the happy hormones. During the menopause, as estrogen begins to decline, your body goes into a state of deprivation, and there is evidence to suggest that your brain's energy levels are reduced as a result. And again, this reduction in energy levels in your brain can trigger these psychological symptoms as well as hot flashes. As menopause is a natural process that occurs in women, your body will take some time to adjust to these hormonal changes. However, we do know, as I've mentioned before, that if you have been induced into a surgical menopause, or again, you have been plummeted into menopause because of an endocrine therapy such as tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitors, these symptoms might be more severe. So can what I eat and drink help with these symptoms? Yes. From eating patterns to individual nutrients to meal prepping and making lists, what you can eat and drink and how you prepare it can help you to manage your psychological symptoms. So despite the nutribabble that we so often see online about new ways to restrict the food we eat or what time we eat it at, our brain needs to be fueled regularly. Unlike other organs, our brain relies on a steady supply of glucose as its primary fuel, which we can get from whole grain carbohydrates. The brain cannot use any other food source such as protein or fats. In fact, our brain uses around 20% of all the energy our body needs. And you can see here on our menopause plate, we can get glucose from whole grain carbohydrates such as breads, pasta, potatoes, and oats. Eating a whole grain carbohydrate source that slowly releases energy helps ensure that that we are fueling our brain regularly. Restricting the food that we eat or how regularly we eat it during the day can have an impact on our concentration, our mood, fatigue, as well as our relationship with food. Not having enough glucose and the severe condition known as hypoglycemia can cause you to feel weak, tired, or have difficulty concentrating. Just to note, in kind of social media over the last year or so, we have seen the rise of anti-glucose spike supplements. We would just like to say that it is perfectly normal for your glucose, your blood glucose to rise following the consumption of a meal. It is a normal physiological reaction to eating. So we would say aim to have 3 regular meals during the day and 2 snacks. And snacks is something that we are very often asked about in clinic. What snacks can you have on hand to help those sort of mid-afternoon slumps, or if you are feeling very, very fatigued? Making sure that your snacks have a source of protein and some whole grain carbohydrates is really, really important. And preparing them ahead of time will make that mid-afternoon snack even more satisfying. So we have 4 snacks here on the screen, and each of these have been carefully curated, taste tested, and nutritionally analysed by dietitians, cancer survivors, and their families. So you can see here we have a whole grain cracker with some different toppings. We've got some cream cheese, we've got some cheddar cheese, we've got some hummus on there, and we have plenty of fruit and veg. We have a chocolate trail mix that's really, really high in fibre and high in those good fats. It's got a little bit of chocolate in there too. A creamy hummus, which uses chickpeas and tahini, again, a source of fibre, a source of protein, and a source of calcium. And our brain bites, which have dates in them. They're naturally sweetened, and they have plenty of fibre in there too. So in our first webinar, we discussed different types of fats and their sources. And some fats are really important for our brain health, our heart health, and our vasomotor symptoms. Our body needs fat to function, and in fact, our brains are made up of around 50% fat. Our cells need fat to maintain their structure, and we also need fat to absorb important vitamins such as vitamin D. The bottom line is we need a good supply of healthy fats to keep our brain healthy. And you can see here again on the plate that we're getting these sources of fats from different sections and different food groups. So we also need essential fatty acids, and this is really important because our body cannot create essential fatty acids itself. We need a source from our diet. And again, we spoke about these briefly in our first webinar. We need these to help ensure that our brains are well nourished. So olive oil or rapeseed oil are great for cooking, adding nuts and seeds, or using olive oil or nut oils as dressings on salads, which give us a good source of essential fatty acids, as well as including a source of oily fish during the week as well. Try to decrease the trans fats that we have in our diet, as these seem to be harmful to our brain structure and function. Trans fats are found in processed and packaged foods, such as our processed meals, our ready meals, prepackaged cakes and biscuits. Instead, if you can, try and cook from scratch or use fresh foods wherever you can. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about how we can help prepare these meals in advance later on. So we spoke as well in our last webinar on gut health around the role of gut health in brain function and around this gut-brain axis. So, you know, this connection really hinges on an extensive network of neurons in the gut, which communicates directly with our brain. So the communication goes both ways. So a troubled gut can send signals to the brain, and a troubled brain can send signals back to the gut. The messages that they send includes important information around the gut's microbiota and various neurotransmitters that the gut produces, such as serotonin and dopamine, which are vital for mood regulation and mental clarity. Improving our gut health through diet is a promising pathway to enhancing our brain function and achieving mental clarity. So again, incorporating things like probiotics and prebiotics, trying to include up to 30 plant foods during the week, and reducing the amount of sort of fast foods that we are having as well. So I'm going to go on now and talk about individual nutrients. And the first one we're going to talk about is B vitamins and brain health. And B vitamins play a really important role in how our body generates the energy from food that we eat. And again, this is an extremely complex system with many, many steps that we won't go into today. We need an adequate supply of each B vitamin to ensure that this complex energy production system can work properly. And if we don't have enough of one in our diet, we may experience tiredness, fatigue, or difficulty concentrating. So vitamins B1, B3, B6, and B12 are key B vitamins that play a role in our brain health, and again, our hormones such as dopamine and serotonin. And we've discussed a lot in these webinars about having a varied and balanced diet and not focusing on one food and nutrient. And I'm going to bring us back to our menopause plate here. And you can see that by including and incorporating different foods from each food group, we can get a range of B vitamins throughout the plate and throughout the meal. To note, if you are a vegan, that might be when you start to look at a supplement for B, especially B12. However, if you eat a varied and balanced diet, you should be able to get enough of these B vitamins. We cannot store B vitamins in our body, and they are known as water soluble. So this means that any excess amount of the vitamin that our body doesn't use, it is excreted from our body through our urine. And Samantha will go on and talk in a few slides about vitamin B supplements as well. So again, thinking practically by selecting different ingredients from our plate that we had there and creating a meal like this Spanish style salmon, particularly for our brain health. We have our brown rice in there, which has got plenty of E vitamins. We have our salmon in there, which has vitamin B12 and omega-3 fatty acids, and we have plenty of fruit and veg in there as well. And actually, one portion of this recipe meets 100% of your daily requirements of vitamin B12. So sometimes you are getting more of one nutrient in than you think. The next vitamin I'm going to talk about is iron. And iron plays a key role in the creation of red blood cells, which carry oxygen around the body. And if we don't eat enough iron-rich sources, we may feel weak, tired, and lethargic. And if this happens for a period of time, it may result in a condition called anemia. We can reduce this risk and manage symptoms like fatigue by ensuring that we're including fish, beans, pulses, poultry, and red meat in our diet. The body's ability to absorb iron can be reduced by a substance called tannins, and tannins are often found in tea and coffee, so it's a really good idea to avoid drinking these with our meals if you can. And to help our body absorb iron, vitamin C is needed, so try and include sources like fresh orange juice, strawberries, kiwis, peppers, or sweet potatoes to meals. So we've had a little bit of think about the foods, now we're going to have a think about the drinks and the hydration. So a healthy brain contains up to 78% water, so it makes sense that if we're dehydrated, it will have an impact on our mood and our concentration. Just like our bladder, certain drinks can help or hinder our symptoms. So again, we're going to aim for around 6 to 8 glasses of fluid per day to stay hydrated. So caffeine may seem like your knight in shining armor if you're struggling to concentrate or you haven't had a night's sleep or you're feeling fatigued, that mid-afternoon slump. But it can affect your mood, your sleep, and make you feel more anxious. The caffeine found in that morning cup of coffee has a stimulating effect on your central nervous system, meaning that it increases awakeness, improves mood, and releases catecholamines. And catecholamines are responsible for the body's fight or flight response and can result in symptoms including palpitations, anxiety, panic attacks, and increased sweating if the high levels are present in your body. The current recommendation for safe consumption of caffeine is 400 milligrams per day. Research suggests that consumption of over 600 per day is linked to insomnia, irritability, increased blood pressure, and nervousness. So try and limit your caffeine intake where possible. Opt for a decaf coffee, try herbal tea, or even try some water instead. The next drink we're going to have a bit of a chat about is alcohol. And alcohol, when we consume it, can also change the way that we think and we feel. Alcohol is known as a depressant, and it can alter our brain chemistry, causing us to feel high and then low. This may make some of the psychological symptoms that you're experiencing worse. So we're going to speak now a little bit about dopamine, and I've mentioned dopamine a few times already in this webinar. Dopamine is known as the happy hormone, and when we consume alcohol, our body produces more dopamine than normal. Dopamine then travels to the reward centers of the brain, and this effect will likely cause us to want to drink more. However, the more alcohol we consume, the more we are likely to experience the side effects like dehydration and confusion. If we regularly consume alcohol, our body becomes used to these dopamine boosts that it gets. And in turn, the body begins to produce less dopamine to counterbalance this. And when drinking becomes a habit or a regular occurrence in our diet, we may even become dopamine deficient, which can contribute to us experiencing a low mood. And the reduction in dopamine and serotonin, another happy hormone, caused by regular anxiety consumption can lead to, regular alcohol consumption can lead to worse anxiety too. So reducing alcohol in our diet, there are some simple changes to help reduce the amount of alcohol in our diet. And not only will it have positive effects on your brain health and psychological symptoms, but it can also help you to manage hot flushes, your sleep, your body composition, and much more. And throughout these webinars, we've very much taken a health gain approach. So it's not about what you take out of your diet, it's about what you add in. And, reducing alcohol, not drinking can be a bit of a taboo subject, and, it might leave you feeling a little bit left out. So there are some alternatives that you can try. And we have curated this midnight cherry spritz, which uses a tart cherry concentrate. And this tart cherry concentrate is high in natural melatonin and antioxidants. And some studies have found that this tart cherry concentrate can reduce aromatase inhibitor induced joint pain, otherwise known as arthralgias. There has been also studies in the general population and athletes that have reported that tart cherry can improve your sleep as well. So whilst we are thinking about reducing alcohol in our diet, you can add in nutritious alternatives that do taste good. So the menopause sleep cycle is something that we see very, very commonly, and a sort of a item that we commonly address as well in clinics, and a cycle that we commonly address in clinics. What can happen, and again, it's a bit like alcohol, it's the day after, the night before. The choices that we make the day after can have an impact if our sleep hasn't been great. So you might have had sleep disturbances because of night sweats or insomnia. You might wake up a little bit later, grab a cup of coffee, you might rush out the door, might not have had time to make breakfast or lunch. You have another couple of coffees then when you get to where you're going. And then you might make a different choice for lunch than you would have if you were making something at home. Again, mid-afternoon, you've hit that slump, you're very fatigued, you're very tired. When you get home then, you're a little bit rushed, you're panicked, you haven't had time to relax. So the first thing we would say is always to have a good sleep hygiene. So again, when you're going to bed in a cold, dark room, trying to reduce the blue light consumption or the screen consumption. Ensuring you maybe have a glass of water beside the bed. If you are waking in the night, try not to go downstairs, try not to make a cup of tea. I know it's very tempting, but again, all that additional caffeine that we have in the body, we want to keep ourselves as calm as possible. Research has shown that consuming 2 kiwi fruits an hour before bed can positively impact sleep. And it suggests because it's rich in antioxidants and serotonin, and it can help improve sleep duration and quality. By incorporating kiwi fruit into our diet, we can potentially see improved sleep thanks to the melatonin, which plays a role in circadian rhythm regulation. So maybe try those 2 kiwi fruits an hour before bed and see how you go, and you'll be getting in 2 of your 5 a day anyway. So Samantha's going to have a bit of a chat now about supplements for brain health and what to look out for.
Thanks, Katie. So many brain supplements that you'll find on the market targeted for brain health will contain B vitamins. Primarily, they'll always have B12 in them. They also might have omega-3 fatty acids because these nutrients are essential for brain function, like Katie's already outlined during the webinar. The good news is that you don't need a supplement to get or reach your B vitamin requirements. Again, as Katie has already mentioned, it's very easy to actually meet your B vitamin requirements through Mediterranean style dietary eating patterns. So eating whole grains, fruits, veg, healthy fats. So you can get in your B vitamins without the need for supplements. And most people who do eat this style of eating and have these foods on a regular basis they're highly unlikely to be deficient in B vitamins. And, the other thing that we wanted to mention here, and it's kind of relating back to what we've said in previous webinars, is that whole foods contain unique combination of nutrients. They contain other compounds that supplements just can't match. So supplements are helpful when you have a diagnosed nutrient deficiency. And if you do, then you should be taking supplementation under the guidance of a doctor, healthcare professional. If you're not eating these foods regularly, like whole grains, fruits and veg, and the foods that contain B vitamins or omega-3 fatty acids, then sometimes, yes, a supplement can be helpful. So if I just focus on B vitamins for the moment, this is a supplement label here on this slide that I've mocked up. And it's a typical label, actually, that you'll find on a lot of menopause dietary supplements. What they'll do is they'll often put in a lot of B vitamins, specifically if they're targeting brain health, or they put brain health somewhere on the label that this is going to target and help this symptom of menopause. You don't need excess amounts of B vitamins. And I think Katie has really clearly outlined that already in the webinar, that because they're water soluble, your body will use what it needs. And if there is excess within food, it will excrete it. However, when you're taking B vitamins in supplement form, a lot of the time it can be very high doses. And once you go over 100% of your daily requirement, or here on a label, it might be NRV, which stands for nutrient reference value. It's just the amount that you need per day. Once you go over 100%, there's There is the possibility sometimes, depending on the vitamin or the mineral, that there could be toxicity, that there could be, adverse effects from taking excess amounts. You don't need it though. From a menopausal point of view, it's not going to benefit your symptoms because there's been no research to show that any vitamins or minerals can actually target a menopausal symptom. And it's not going to decrease your risk of developing a secondary cancer. It's not going to decrease your risk of developing cardiovascular disease or any other chronic disease. So there's no benefit to going over 100%. So my advice here is if you're going to go for a supplement that contains B vitamins in particular, because we understand that on particular days of the week you might not feel great, might not be eating a diet rich in whole grains, fruit and veg. That's completely normal. And maybe some on those days, maybe you do want a supplement with a vitamin supplement. What I would say is go for an inexpensive multivit that has B vitamins in it, but don't go above 100% of the NRV or the daily recommended amount. So just don't go above what's recommended for the dosage, is essentially what we're going to say there. On the next slide, I'm going to go through some herbs, botanicals that you'll often find within these brain health or menopausal supplements. In particular, for the brain health supplements, lion's mane and ashwagandha are often included. And that's because lion's mane and ashwagandha have been linked to stress reduction. They've also been linked to improving better sleep. Now, with these two in particular, and I'll go through the rest in a second, they both have some evidence to support their use, but that evidence is quite limited. The main thing for people who've gone through cancer is that there's absolutely no evidence whatsoever or any research that's been done in cancer survivors using these two particular herbs. There is no safety data either. So we don't recommend these currently for treating brain fog or helping with stress reduction in cancer survivors because there's uncertainty around the proper doses, the preparation methods, and there is always potential safety risks with unknowns. Now, there is no direct interactions with tamoxifen documented at all with regards lion's mane and ashwagandha. And main reason there's no documented evidence that they interact is because there's very limited or there's an absence of research in these two particular herbs with tamoxifen. So what you'll find in clinical practice is that most healthcare professionals will advise you to avoid them because we just don't know enough about them. So it's at your own discretion whether you want to take them or not, or if you find that they're beneficial. The only other thing I'll mention is that even though there's no documented interactions with tamoxifen, which that's a good thing, you have to understand that these are still treated as foods. They're not treated as pharmaceutical drugs or medicines in Ireland or in the EU. So that means that they don't have to undergo purity testing, third-party verification, and the company who's producing them, they don't actually need to state on the label where they've sourced their ingredients or where their ingredients are coming from. They don't have to disclose that information. The other reason I want to say err on the side of caution is because this area of research, and particular nutrition research, is constantly evolving. So much so that even just this summer in June 2024, there was safety experts from around the EU, from 26 European countries. They reviewed a lot of the supplements on the market, and they reviewed actually 117 commonly used substances within supplements. And of these, they've flagged 13 ingredients for potential health risks. And this is very new research. So the ones that they've flagged, I've listed some of them here on the label and I've pointed to them. Tryptophan, which is an amino acid, it's often used in supplements for brain health, and particularly to helping women going through menopause improve their sleep or their sleep quality. Black cohosh, which we've mentioned in previous webinars, that has now been flagged as a potential health risk. Maca, which is not on this list, but I've mentioned it in previous webinars, that has also been listed as a potential health risk. So I would recommend anyone, regardless of their cancer history, to avoid these botanicals until their safety has been confirmed. And the EU is going to be undergoing more tests around these supplements and looking at their safety. But even widely used substances like ginkgo biloba, and that would be often used in brain health supplements, they flagged that as needing more research because they don't understand the risks that it could pose. So The problem with taking herbs in particular is that when they're taking in a supplement form, it's concentrated and it can be in a very high dose. And they don't know what those doses are doing. They don't know the safe amount of dose with these particular herbs. And, there's potential there for harming vulnerable groups like cancer survivors or anyone who has a chronic health condition. So just because the supplement's over the counter from your health food shop, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming without any risk. This area is constantly being researched. And what's really good is that the European Commission are now working on setting maximum safe levels for vitamins, minerals, and botanicals. So up until now, we haven't had this information. They're getting to work on what's safe for consumers, but until we know those safe levels, our advice is buyer beware. The information that we do know, and on the next slide, it's around, I suppose, what we can pick. What nutrients do we know are safe, that we know that you can choose if you do want to go down a supplement route. So for those who aren't eating oily fish twice a week, yes, we would advise omega-3 fatty acid supplementation. That's at the same dose, the same level that we advised previously around heart health. If you're taking a supplement for your heart health, an omega-3 fatty acid supplement, you don't need to take an additional one for brain health. One supplement will be suffice. It will target your brain. It will also target your heart health. Ideally, yes, oily fish would be more beneficial, and that's actually where the research has shown that the omega-3s coming from oily fish rather than a fish oil supplement are linked to better cognitive outcomes. But if on the days and the weeks you're not having oily fish, an omega-3 fatty acid supplement is okay to take. And I would advise a simple, inexpensive multivitamin if you want to get B vitamins in, if you're not taking them regularly through the diet. So if you're not getting in regular whole grains, fruits, veg, everything that Katie's gone through with you in this webinar, and you're looking for something to target your B vitamins, then just an inexpensive multivitamin that doesn't go beyond 100% of the NRV or the daily recommended dosage. That's as much as you need. For sleep in particular, magnesium glycinate has been recommended, and it's something that I know that they'd recommend in a clinical setting. Ideally not going beyond 400 milligrams per day. So roughly, I think it's between 270 to 370 milligrams of magnesium glycinate has been shown in some studies to help with sleep. And like the research, it's still constantly evolving in this area too. More robust research is needed, but it's safe. And taking magnesium glycinate will not pose any harm with regards to tamoxifen or if you're on aromatase inhibitors either. We've mentioned vitamin D as well. If you're taking this for your bone health, then there'll also be some benefits. There's research emerging that there's, I suppose, links between vitamin D and brain health as well. So getting in around 20 to 25 micrograms of vitamin D per day for bone health will also help with brain health and muscle health. So there's no need to take excess amounts of that. Just word of caution, if you're taking a multivitamin for your B vitamins that contains vitamin D, you don't need a separate preparation of vitamin D as well. So we want to try and avoid that vitamin mineral stacking that we mentioned in a previous webinar. And I can go through this with you in more detail at the live Q&A session on October 17th. And finally on that slide, probiotics. Ideally, probiotics from food, prebiotics from food would be the most benefit for your gut-brain axis, as Katie has mentioned. However, if you miss these foods, probiotic foods on a daily basis, then a supplement can help. And again, I've outlined those in previous webinars, and we can go through them with you on October 17th.
Thanks, Samantha. So as we've mentioned throughout the series, looking at food first and supplementing afterwards for the foods that we may be missing out on, the vitamins and minerals we may be missing out on. This is a brain health menu. And again, all these dishes have been curated, nutritionally analysed by ourselves, and have been tested with cancer survivors and their families. But I want to show you the content of this menu over the course of the day. So in the morning time, we have our tropical overnight oats that contain oats, chia seeds. So we've got our whole grain carbohydrates in there. We've got some omega-3 fatty acids in there. Some Greek yogurt for our protein and our calcium, and some milk as well as some tropical fruit over the top. Lunchtime, we have a New York style toast. So we've got our oily fish there. We've got our salmon, and we've got some cream cheese with a nice whole grain bread. Dinner time, we've got our iron from our red meat. We've got our steak in there. again, we've got beans and pulses, we have rice, and we have a creamy lime dressing, and we have avocado, we have a nice tomato salsa. And then for our snacks, we have these kitchen peanut butter balls, which again contain our oats or chia seeds, a little bit of peanut butter, and some chocolate there as well. So the reason I'm showing you this is food first is often more nutritious than we think. I want you to focus on the yellow bars here on the slide. And this is from the European Food Safety Authority. And these are their recommendations for each individual nutrient here. You can see that I have sectioned off. So we have our B vitamins, we have our iron, and we have our magnesium there. On the blue slides, this is the nutritional analysis we've done for that one meal and that one meal plan. So we've got the 3 meals and the 1 snack. This is what it contains. And you can see here that we are meeting, if not exceeding, the targets for each individual nutrient. So again, we might not need a supplement here if this is what you're eating on a day-to-day basis. As Samantha said, there may be some days that you're not managing to eat something like this, and that might be a day that you maybe want to think about a supplement. But again, please always talk with your medical team or a registered dietitian before you start to introduce any supplements into your regime. I just wanted to touch on anxiety after cancer treatment and during menopause, and it's something that we would see very commonly in our clinics. We spoke a little bit throughout this webinar around anxiety and around psychological symptoms and things that might hinder this or make it worse. Changes to your body composition and as well symptoms like hot flushes and brain fog can be very distressing, and they might cause you anxiety. Waiting on scans in between appointments from your consultant might also cause anxiety as well. The most important thing from our aspect that you can do during this transition is to continue to fuel and nourish your body so that you can support your health during this time. If you do feel that you're not managing to cope, please contact your GP, your oncology team, your clinical nurse specialist, or another member of your team to seek some support. So it's not food or drink related, but it can help with these symptoms. And brain fog and other psychological symptoms may make the weekly food shop or cooking your meals more challenging than normal. You've maybe popped into the shop on your way home from work, but you can't remember what you need. You're exhausted when you get to the weekend and you want something quick and easy and convenient for dinner. There are some small and simple tricks to help manage your symptoms and ensure that you're fueling your body in the right way. Planning your meals. If you can, take 20 minutes before you go shopping to plan your meals and snacks. Try and maybe coordinate ingredients and opt for simple snacks that you can prepare ahead of time to grab and go. Freeze and label any leftovers that you might have. These might save you time. You know, if you have a busy Thursday, you know that you might not get home to make dinner in time for yourself. So maybe pop in something on a Monday in the freezer if you've made extra, and have some cupboard and freezer staples. And again, we'll be going through all these practical tips on October 17th, as you know, what can help you out on days where you maybe haven't planned ahead. Planning your food shops are a really important tip as well, and breaking it down into kind of your fruits and your vegetables, your proteins, your carbohydrates. If you know the way around your supermarket, you'll know what aisle you hit first and what aisle you hit last. Breaking it down can make it easy when you get to the store, and it also means that you won't forget anything when you're there. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. So just a few key takeaways for you. Nourish your brain through the Mediterranean style of eating. You know, it's not about one nutrient or one food. It's looking at the whole plate. Plan your snacks. Try and include a source of whole grain carbohydrates, unsaturated fats, proteins, fruits and veg to boost your energy and to leave you feeling satisfied after the meal. Try and limit your caffeine and your alcohol intake where you can. This will help with sleep and other symptoms like anxiety. And again, if you're removing it, maybe try and replace it with something that might help improve your sleep, or improve other symptoms you might have. Plan ahead. Again, taking 20 minutes to plan your food shop or your weekly meals can help in the long run. And focus again, as we always say, on what you can add into your diet, not take away. The final part of this series is a live webinar with a Q&A session on Thursday, the 17th of October at 1 p.m. Scan the QR code using the camera function on your phone that's on the screen at the minute, or you can use the link in the description below to register for the Q&A. Please send your questions into researchadmin@irishcancer.ie. Samantha and I will be tying everything we've learned from this series together and really giving some practical tips on how to implement these strategies. The Irish Cancer Society also offer services and supports. They have a support line and the free phone number is on the screen. They have 13 daffodil centres in hospitals nationwide, They also offer counselling, peer support, and practical and financial solutions. So thank you for listening to this webinar. We hope you got something out of it and enjoyed it.
Thank you.